Hello, everyone. Today I'd like to talk about Neil Sedaka. Now, he passed away last week, and I didn't find out about it until maybe 2, 3 days later. And when I read about it, it kind of hit hard, mainly because I really admire Neil Sedaka he's one of my favorite singer-songwriters, and that's due to not just being a singer-songwriter, but like if you follow his path, especially when he started out through like the 70s and so forth. Um, it's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive and is unique in its own way. So I knew about Neil Sedaka from music, listening to the radio stations, mainly the oldies, and there would be one particular oldie station in the 90s that would just play 50s and 60s music. And from that era, from the 50s and 60s, besides Elvis and so forth, and even there's a few Elvis songs, but um, majority of those hits, especially that radio station that would play those 50s and 60s, would be um, songs that were penned in that Brill building in New York City, the famous Brill building, where you had like the songwriting teams all housed in that building, especially and a lot of music as well, all kinds of things. I've never been to New York City, but it's one of those things where I like to visit that building, just even outside, just to say, hey, that's the legendary building with all the legendary teams back then. So, and when I mean by songwriting teams, I'm talking about like Bacharach and David, Goffin and King, Mann and Weil, and then you got Sedaka with Greenfield. And there's a few more popular ones, and to me, my favorite would be the Bacharach David pairing, mainly because of the song output that I like the most. But you just can't go wrong with any one of them. It's more of a preference of the song that you like from those the songwriting teams. It just happens for me it was Bacharach, but they're all like legendary, and you know Sedaka and Greenfield being one of them. Now, what made Neil Sedaka, to me, in my eyes, unique of all those teams is his singing songwriting. He was truly a singer songwriter in that time, specific time. Of all those teams I've mentioned, and then plus any more that were in there at the time that I missed, I don't know if Boyce and Hart was there, but anyway, he actually had hit albums, hit songs, and hit albums. Like Breaking Up Was Hard to Do, the original version, Old Carol, Happy Birthday, Sweet 16, Calendar Girl. He actually had very hit singing them by himself. He had his hit songs. Now I know Burt Bacharach had albums as well as a singer of his own songs, but to me, I don't know how popular they were back then, but if you want to listen to any Bacharach David songs, they need to be by the artists that cover them, like Dionne Warwick, right? Artists like that. I wouldn't buy an album even though I do have a Burt Bacharach singing his own music, it's not what I would consider like a singer. So to me, Bacharach's more of a songwriter than anything, not really a singer. Neil Sedaka, of all the teams at that time, he was truly the singer-songwriter, at least from a popularity and success standpoint. And now, obviously, that those teams and that whole thing kind of died starting in the mid '60s on, mainly because British invasion, music styles change, things like that. And then, if you're talking about singer-songwriter, people that came out of that Brill building era, you can immediately say Carole King was more successful as a solo artist. Neil Diamond was probably even more successful, but I knew he worked at the Brill building, but I don't know if he was paired with anyone, things like that, or if even when he was there, did he write any hits during that time besides the Monkees? I know he wrote "I'm a Believer." I think it was "I Am a Believer," but anyway, outside of that, but Neil Sedaka, besides his early output, 50s and 60s, it seemed like, there's a lull period where he pretty much disappeared until he came back. And I didn't know anything about that, especially as a kid in the 90s growing up, until I heard this song. And this happens to be my favorite song, and you should know it. Yes, Laughter in the Rain. When I first heard this song, it happened to be on a station that was kind of also an oldies. When I think of oldies as 50s or anything really before the 80s or mid 80s, I would say. And this is in with the perspective of a kid in the 90s. So when I heard this song, this happened to be on an oldie station, but they play more like soft rock, or what we call it yacht rock these days, as well as they also play like music from the Carpenters. And if they're playing music from the Carpenters, this Neil Sedaka fits right in, right? So when I first heard that song, Laughter in the Rain, I immediately knew who it was, even though it was the first time. I knew it was Neil Sedaka because his voice is very unique. It's always, you can tell, like, from that. His voice hasn't really changed from his Calendar Girl days. It's very unique in that sense, first of all. Second of all, after listening to it, at that time, and even today, I felt like it's one of the most beautiful pieces of pop music ever created. I mean, just listening to it, and then when I knew about it, it's one of those things where if I hear it, I got to hear it again. And after repeated listenings, I had to agree in my initial my initial thought about it was it's definitely one of the great pop pieces of all time. It's almost perfect. Like, to me, it's perfect. And just from, it's a simple song too. It's nothing complicated. There's no like hardcore, like, piano playing or anything. It's just the melody, and it's driven by it. And the beautiful voice coming out from Sedaka, and it's absolutely perfect. And how everything is arranged, I wouldn't change it in the world for it. It's just the absolute most perfect, beautiful pop song ever created. And even today, I consider it one of my favorite pop songs of all time. And really any genre. I mean, this is a song where if I played it and I could put on repeat for hours and never get tired of it. It's a beautiful song. And anyone else who's never listened to this song, and when they hear it that I know of, they actually like the song. It is one you cannot dislike the song in any way. It's just a perfect pop piece. And that's what kind of made me get back into Neil Sedaka and really admire him as a singer-songwriter, is from that lull period after the Brill Building years and coming out like this with Laughter in the Rain. And it took me a few years later that finding out about his slow version of Breaking Up Is Hard to Do, which came around the same time, maybe a year or so later after Laughter in the Rain. I was, that's when I knew this guy is damn good. Is just damn good, because I always took Neil Sedaka from the, his Brill Building years, Calendar Girl, things like that. Kind of like a teenage style song, upbeat, not upbeat, but more like uplifting type, that type of thing. I never took him like, can do these types of songs. To me, that's like the most perfect pop song. And that's where I really admired him from afar. And to this day, I play this mainly for Laughter in the Rain. I like he has his other songs, but they're kind of remade. This is the other album I have. I actually have another one, but this is his double CD set. And I have my original Neil Sedaka had the original early year hits, his, Calendar Girl, so forth. It's just that a lot of his compilation, they're kind of like he re-sang it and things like that. And I prefer the originals, regardless if he's re-sang it just as well. But so I really, truly like and admire how Neil Sedaka is. And in real life, I'm pretty sure he's a really one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, in a sense that it seems like in the interviews and stuff I've seen on documentaries or on TV and things like that, he's always like happy. He's always kind of like this smiling, kind of a just a happy, like if you're sad or something and you just go and meet Neil and just sit down, talk with him for 5 minutes, I think you cheer up a bit. I mean, he seems like that type of guy, and he kind of reflects in his early music. It's always upbeat. Like Breaking Up is hard to do. The slow version of it is, I think, is more appropriate for the song, but the original version I kind of like better because it's more, it's more cheerful. I guess I don't for that type of song, you can make it cheerful. That's pretty impressive. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about Neil. Laughter in the Rain is not only my favorite song from Neil as a singer and songwriter, but as I mentioned before, I think it's one of my favorite songs of all time. You put this song on, have anyone listen to it, they're not gonna dislike it by any means, and I think a lot of them will love it. So as a songwriting duo with Greenfield, and I also wanted to get back to this, his later years, even though his like 70s output wasn't as much as his 50s and 60s output and or successful. I mean, he just had a few that were successful. I thought that's what his best output was in his 70s. And besides Laughter in the Rain, Breaking Up is Hard to Do, the slow version, I thought his best work with Greenfield, and from what I understand, he had a kind of the later years with Greenfield's relationship was a bit rocky, but I thought that pairing produced the best song, and happened to be on Captain and Tennille. Yes, you know what it is, right? Love Will Keep Us Together. That's a Sedaka Greenfield song, but that was in the later years. That's after the Brill Building years, and Laughter in the Rain was with his new partner, I think it was Paul Cody. I think that's the best song, but the best song of that pair that another artist covered, yeah, the Carpenters, no doubt about it. Solitaire. Solitaire is actually one of my favorite Carpenter songs that is not really considered a hit, in the sense that most Carpenter's compilations would not include Solitaire. This one did. So anyway, and that also, that's the later years. So to me, that's what I admire Neil Sedaka at that point in time. And he not only made a comeback, I think his comeback trumps his Brill Building years, what most people would consider his best years. I thought his 70s output was, even though it's not as much output as his earlier years, I thought it was his better one. So anyway, for Neil, I really do admire him. I really miss him now, knowing that he passed away. I feel sad, but I've been listening to Laughter in the Rain and his other hits for a bit now, and for some reason I'm kind of cheering up after that. So anyway, farewell, Neil. Just rest in peace. That's all. Thanks. Bye.